Hello again, it's Noob, and in front of us we have a kit that's actually so big I've had to change the way that I've set up my filming so that I can get most of it in shot. And just look at that. Now, before I carry on, I just want to make it clear that this is a kit which you can no longer purchase anymore. But it's really quite the collectible for us lockpickers. This is a Storm lockpick set. This one I got from a trade with a friend, and it is almost complete. It's very, very hard to find a completely complete one these days, like I said, because they're no longer made. They're made in the UK, out of 301 stainless steel, I believe, although they weren't a hardened 301 steel, which we'll come on to a bit later. But just look at this. Now, there is one great feature about these, aside from the design, and that is they are one of the first interchangeable handle sets that I know of. There's a few out there for sure, but this is one of the first that I knew about. Now, that being said, these handles were quite expensive. I can't remember exactly how much they were, but you'd be expected to have one or two per set and then change to a handle if you want a pick with extra comfort. That was really the idea. So it wasn't a set where you'd have every pick with a handle. In fact, there's only a certain amount of slots you can actually put a pick with a handle in this whole kit, henceforth why it was over there. So it wasn't like a kit designed to have interchangeable handles per se, but more, put handles on your favourite picks. Maybe if you had to swap out for another pick you're using quite a lot, put another handle on one of those as well. But nevertheless, it's a very cool design. And look here, there's even a little window which has that laser cut number in. I think it's supposed to be this way up, I think. Yeah, let's say it's 31. So they're all individually numbered picks. Let's just grab one or a couple at random and have a look. So it says Storm here, and that's a 10. Storm here, that's a 30. So that's the profiles. Now it has to be said that the case is really, really something special. It's all made of like a almost like a velvet-like leather. It's quite rough and rugged, all black. Really hard to keep clean. So no matter how much you kind of put tape over it, it always just attracts more specks. But it is sort of really cool. The idea with this is that you just roll it up and then and tie it around with these ties. But we don't need to do that right now. Yeah, just really liked it. Another thing which gets out of the way is how much was this? And do you know what? I just can't find any information. I think Storm haven't been really around since around 2016-ish, I think. There's a Facebook page which is inactive. And there was a website called Forceware, which is still active, that did sort of go back to resell some of these Storm picks, but then stopped selling them pretty shortly thereafter, which is all a bit of a mystery. I wish I could tell you more about the history of these Storm picks, but there just is very, very, very little information out there on the internet. Anyway, let's have a look at what we actually get. So let's have a look at these. I like to call them reach picks, or I don't know what else to recall them, but these remind me very much of the ones you get in the Avocet pick set, which I did a partial review on a while back. And these sort of curved reach or swooping picks, I don't know, I've never really got on with them. I think a shallow one might be quite useful for getting up behind some pins, but the fact is, let's just compare it to a super deep, let's compare it to like a standard deep hook, and I put them side by side. You can see how at any given angle, can you see the gap between the two? That is a gap where you might be interfering, let's try and get that in focus for you, interfering with a pin in front of the pin you're trying to set. So if you're trying to reach up, that curved part of the metal is just going to interfere. That's why a lot of steep hooks that you find, or deep hooks, have a steep angle curve, so that you're less likely to interfere with the pins before it if they are low set or even zero lift, for example. So, I mean, the one thing I would say is, my goodness, do you get a range of them? I mean, look at this one, for example. I genuinely cannot imagine what you would need this for, but it's so cool that they put that in there. It's almost a semicircle. It's so curved. It's just the strangest thing. I don't know. Yeah, the fact that this is in these kind of curves are in the file save kit as well as this one, it makes me think that somebody will use them and somebody likes them. Maybe you use them yourselves. I'd love to know what you think of these and what you use them for. I've just never had the need to use these kind of picks myself. But it's interesting to have so many of them. Just because they're here, let's look at some of these hooks now. And we do have a lot, which I really appreciate. But again, they're almost there, but not quite. So, here is the shortest of hooks in here, this short hook. And even that has an almost 90-degree angle. So, I've got sort of your standard-ish type hooks on one side here, and then some slightly deeper, like super deep, almost gonzo hooks this side. But if we just look at these, the medium hooks, and these are all different numbers, as you can see, are very similar. If I overlap them, there are some differences, but they are subtle. To me, they're all pretty much the same medium hook, if I was to be honest. And then you've got a slightly longer hook again, but it's almost 90 degrees. I find that angle really unintuitive. You can use it, but on a short hook, I prefer a much more relaxed angle like you might see on these hooks. In fact, if it wasn't such a collectible kit and I was going to use it, I'd probably just trim off one of these long hooks to make it a short glide pick like that, so it has a little swoop. On a shallow angle hook, that really helps you position onto the pins. But that being said, these super deep hooks on some keyways can be really, really useful. And I don't know of many hooks deeper than these ones, that's for sure. So where to next? Well, let's have a look at the diamond picks here. And my goodness, do they offer, again, a huge range of diamond picks, all at different angles. Just look at these. Let me bring them up to the camera for you. Look at that. You've got like a super small diamond here, a relatively large half diamond, then these deforest diamonds which go up and up and up in terms of their length and angle. It's really quite something. The one thing I would say is that these larger diamonds, they really aren't that great inside a lock. They are too big for a deforest profile. This one I found was the only one which was vaguely usable, and it's not actually a bad deforest diamond, to be fair. And there's nothing wrong with this little mini short diamond either, for that matter. Let's have a look at these family of snakes, I'd say. It's more like a bunch of snake rake profiles, and there is a lot. And then we'll get on to the more odd city rake type profiles there. But you can see that again we've got this sort of escalation of snakes here. So we've got two small wave rakes, and they're actually very usable. And then you've got these snake rakes, of which those two are quite usable. And this one, I've just never found a keyway which really needs a snake rake that big. Let's just compare it to like a standard one. And you can see there that there's a 200% increase in size. It's whopping. I'm not saying it couldn't be useful, maybe in a deep wafer lock, but I've just not found a particular use for it. That being said, these four snake rakes actually pretty good. I'm going to do the city rakes in sort of two halves. These are pretty standard-ish city rake profiles. They're trying to replicate a key, so these three here on this side, not too bad at all. They're certainly going to work in a lock or two. This one's quite extreme. It's the most extreme city rake I've seen, but I don't hate it. This one I imagine for slim locks or slim keyway locks pretty good. These ones, however, and I'm all for variety, but just look how small these are. Now there are locks which are small. I've got a couple over here. Let me just show you. That's one tiny little key, and this one is a super tiny little pin tumbler as well. One of the smallest pin tumblers I own. Just look at that. But these sorts of locks barely need a pick at all, never mind a profile on something. So if I just took, for example, this tiny small one, and then compared it to some of the smallest keys I have, can you see what I'm getting at? Yeah, I can't really see a use for it. And in the locks which could take something that small, you could probably just use the back of something flat, like a probe, because usually the tolerances aren't that great. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there will be that one lock which needs, one of these super small city rake profiles to open, maybe for a suitcase or something. Now, I bunched these in with the city rakes, but the truth of the matter is I don't really know what these are for particularly. And they're numbered strange. You've got 1K, 2K, and, well, another 2K, so it looks like we can have a duplicate. I don't really know what they could be used for. Maybe like a city rake. They're not like a comb pick or anything. I'm just a bit confused by these. Maybe you can rock them back and forth inside the lock. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, they're very odd. If you know what they could be used for, I'd be very interested to know. The last section of rakes I've got here are the ball rakes, and like the diamonds, wow, do we have a range of ball rakes here. Ball rakes seem to be popular, especially with locksmiths, for picking wafer locks, and they are very effective at picking wafer locks, I have to say. The rounded profile of the balls really makes them glide through the wafers and not catch in the same way that maybe a half diamond would, although I do prefer a rounded half diamond personally. And you can see just a range here. We've got little half, small ball, half snowman, big ball, full snowman, then some deforest. And once again, this gigantic deforest ball, I just don't find practical at all. Just compare it. There you go. Just look at those two. I mean, look at that. That is truly massive compared to it. Yeah, it's just really strange. It feels like somebody went a bit crazy on the CAD with their scaling and just thought, that'll do for another space. And then we get to some tension tools. What's really cool with these, they've actually used the same handles. I assume you could still attach, not tried, the Storm handle to one if you so wanted. What's nice about these are they are different sized wafer lock tensioners. So don't worry, if I line them up, you should be able to see. There you go. The step there. So one at the back is wider, and then one in the middle comes in, and one at the front is even smaller, the gap between the two, which means I've got a couple of wafer locks here. This one is relatively wide, so I might want to try to use the widest one, like that. If I've got a smaller one, I've got a smaller wafer lock here, I might want to try and use a small one. That being said, these prongs are way too long, and I would have trimmed them down if it wasn't such a collectible set these days to at least half. It's very rare that you need to go in too deep, but you know, that's just my experience. Now, I believe I'm missing a few tension tools, so you've got to bear in mind that as part of this review. But again, these are really cool. You can tell that we've got different thicknesses there of the tension tips. We have three. Yes, they're twisted, but that's the only way you could have these handles and have the tension tip at the right angle. Otherwise, you'd be pressing against the edge with your finger when you want to be pressing against the flat. It does make them a little over flexible though, so they're good if you have a light touch, but not so good if you need to put a lot of tension on your lock. Last but not least, these are the last 4 tension tools in the kit. I believe there were more of these wiper blade style ones, and it's got a little number on there. That's number 1, so I believe there was a few of these. They're quite good actually, although very thin. And yeah, we have these ones too, which are just sort of top of the keyway tension tools. Let me just put them together like that. What you'll see is, if I put them together and they all nest in properly, there we go, that there isn't any differences in thickness between all 3 of these, so they're all the same, which is interesting. So you've got 1U and 2U and 3U. I don't know what really the difference is between these. Maybe the thicknesses of the width of them here. That's the only thing I can really tell. Otherwise, they seem to be pretty identical to me. So how thick are all of these tools? I've got my calipers here, and they all come out at, let's just grab one at random, probably knock over my little stacks, turn them on, zero it up. About 24.5, almost 25 thousandths, something like that, of an inch, which, if that is in millimeters, about 0.62 millimeters, which is, you know, about standard. Now, clearly, it's a very pretty set. The finishing of these picks, if I get it to focus for you, is actually not too bad. You can see they've been rounded and polished, probably in a machine. It looks like they were laser cut, but there's no sharp edges. The quality of these in terms of their finish is great. You got the nice logos here. Unfortunately, this website doesn't work anymore. I really like that. It is laser cutting, I think, but you know, I like the etching on here. It's just really, really nice. The downsides, well, I don't know the exact cost of this, but I remember it being a couple of £100 for a kit this size. It wasn't cheap, and unfortunately, the metal isn't a super hard steel. So whilst it's very usable, you also have to be an experienced picker that was quite careful with their picks, because they were prone to deforming after a while. I don't believe that individually these picks were particularly expensive, so they could have been replaced, but it would have been nice to have had a harder steel. Before I get to some final conclusions, I think it'd be a good idea to just do a few little locks and give them a bit of a run through, and then I'll do some final conclusions with you. The first lock I want to try is this little Avocet padlock, but don't be fooled, it might be a small keyway, but the bitting's quite nice. It's got 5 pins, four of them which are spools. It's just a nice little lock. Now I wanted to try and use nothing but the tension tools that came in with the kit, like these ones, but honestly there's just so few of them. There's a few missing, which is a bit unfair a test on the kit, so I'm just going to use some of my favourite tension tools, which I just normally use, and just let the picks try to shine really. And for the pick I'm going to use this tiny little half diamond, which I think would be perfect in this little keyway, so let's give that a go. That's pin 4, 3, going back through, pin 1 now, that's 1 into a bit of a false set to the back, pin 5, and we are open. I really want to try one of these curved reach type picks, and I've got a master lock here. I'm not really trying to choose a lock which is super hard here. I just want to see how this acts, because this is the shortest one, and you can already see that even in a deep keyway, I've got to go in like this, and then sort of curve it back. So it's put a bit of tension on pin 3, and we're open. Oof, that was odd and very unintuitive to me. I just don't get them. I mean, clearly it can work in some locks, but you know, if I was going to do that deeper, I'd have to go into an even sort of deeper angle to get under the pins. And yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence with that. While we're on the Master Lock 3, let's have a go with one of these classic snake rake profiles and see how that gets on in this lock. I'm hoping it'll be quite, fast, because, well, you know, it's actually a really good snake rake profile, isn't it? Switching up to the XL or Magnum or M1, whichever flavour you like, I thought I'd try out one of these picks. I don't really know if it'll work or what it's for. I just know that this isn't a hard lock to rake, and I'd just give it a wiggle and a rock and see if I could coax it open. I don't know, it's very strange. I'm sure another profile will work well in this lock, but I don't know what this one's doing at all. I mean, I'm sure it could work in some locks, but this normally has no problem in raking open. What does it do? I don't get it. Let's try something like this worm profile instead. See if that's any better in this lock. Yeah, clearly. Overall though, are they worth getting? Well, I think back in the day, they were just a really cool set. and if you could have got one, I'm sure you'd have been thrilled with opening it up and just playing around with all the profiles and seeing the attention to detail that they had. That being said, there's definitely some more practical kits from pretty much every other major manufacturer that were cheaper and stronger and had less filler in. These days though, I mean, it's one of those things which has now just become a slightly rare collectible item. If you can get hold of one, you can afford it, and you like collecting your lockpicks, then definitely I would recommend getting one for your collection. Would I use it? Not very often, no. There's some very useful profiles in there, especially those deep gonzo hooks, which I haven't really seen in a lot of other manufacturers' kits. But for the most part, there isn't anything in the kit which I don't have a equal to better version of in another kit. But do I regret having this kit? Absolutely not. It's genuinely one of my favourite kits. It looks great. It's got this amazing interchangeable handle. It's just a bit crazy. It's big. It's full of filler. But to me, as a collector, it's perfect for what it is. Yes, it's a bit mad. But you know what? That's good when you're collecting stuff like this. So if you are collecting lockpicks, then I really would recommend you trying to get hold of one of these Storm kits if you ever can. It's just a fun thing to have in your collection. Anyway, let me know what you think of the Storm kit. Did you ever have one? Did you ever use their picks? Was I right about the the finish and longevity of the pick material itself? Do you agree that there's a bit too much filler in there, or do you think there's a right balance? Do you think some of the profiles were usable, or do you think some of them really, really weren't? Have I not used some of the profiles correctly in this review? I really would like to know what you think. So yeah, put some comments down below. I read them all, reply to as many as I can. If you like this video, please leave a like. And of course, if you haven't subscribed and like content like this, please do consider dropping me a subscribe, because it really helps my channel out. Anyway, thanks all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.